This is Henry P. Glass, an American inventor from the early 20th century, who was credited with inventing the glass sphere paperweight, but also hundreds of other designs for everyday objects from lamps to typewriters. And this is the woman behind him who made it all possible, his wife, Elly. So if you've ever wondered how the humble paperweight got its start, or just wanted to know what kind of interesting things women were doing in the early days of modern design, then let me introduce you to Elly and Henry. Henry Draper Glass was born in 1869 in Buffalo, New York, the son of a prominent glass manufacturer. So even though he changed his last name to Glass when he grew up, like so many people who change their last name to something that rhymes with it, he was actually related to the Corning Glass Company and spent his early career helping them develop new types of glass and manufacturing techniques. This is why later on, when he became famous for inventing paperweights, he would make sure to tell everyone that he was not related to the Corning Glass Company, because they were dirty liars who stole his designs and sold them without giving him credit. Not that there's any evidence that this ever happened. He just liked making stuff up. After getting married, Henry and Elly moved to Pittsburgh, where Henry set up shop as an independent industrial designer, working mostly with glass, but occasionally branching out into metal. Now, Elly didn't have any formal training in design or engineering, but she did have a degree in art from Smith College. So while Henry was busy trying to perfect the art of balancing spheres on top of glass rods, Elly would often come in after dinner and use her artistic skills to finish off his prototypes. See, Henry was never much of an artist himself and had no interest in learning perspective, anatomy, or the various other artistic principles that artists spend years studying. So Elly would take his rough ideas and turn them into something that looked good. But since Henry was the engineer and knew about manufacturing techniques, he was always the one who came up with the final design that went into production. So it was really a rare case of a husband and wife team, each doing what they were good at and collaborating to create something special. However, this wouldn't have been possible if Elly hadn't taken it upon herself to learn how to do engineering, even though she was never able to get an official degree in it, because Henry, despite being arguably the most talented industrial designer of his time, was just really bad at the business side of things. Like, he was so bad that at one point he hired someone to help him keep track of his finances and ended up owing that person $10,000 by the end of the year. That's the equivalent of owing somebody $370,000 today. And if you think that's bad, just wait until I tell you about the IRS audit. Anyway, while Henry was busy losing money, Elly stepped in and started managing their business affairs, which led to her having to hire an accountant. But here's where the story takes a dark turn, because whenever she called up potential investors or manufacturers to discuss her husband's designs, she would get laughed off the phone because they didn't take a woman seriously. So Elly, being the resourceful sort, decided to just take over Henry's business completely. She registered a patent in her name for a novelty button hook she designed, then used the profits from that to support the family, while she took on Henry's old clients and brought them around to the idea of putting her name on the patents instead of his, with the understanding that she would split the profits with him. Since technically he was the one who came up with the designs, it just wasn't worth the hassle to argue with her. And while this arrangement worked out well for them financially, it put a strain on their marriage, because Elly was now running the business and Henry was free to pursue whatever projects he wanted. And what he wanted more than anything else was to invent a mechanical drawing board. You see, Henry was one of those guys who thought that computers were a fad and would never catch on. And he truly believed that the best way to improve a product was to simply make it more complicated. So after putting hundreds of thousands of dollars into developing a mechanical typewriter, then spending several years refining it, he finally came up with a machine that could draw anything you wanted, provided you understood its complex system of gears, cams, and linkages. Now, this machine was undeniably cool, but it was also expensive to produce, and nobody wanted to buy it. So when Henry asked Elly to invest in it, she said no. And once again, Henry found himself in debt. However, she pressed on, continuing to refine the mechanical drawing board until it became commercially viable. Then she began marketing it along with a number of other inventions that Henry had worked on before his death, such as a self-propelling wheelchair. The fact that these inventions didn't exactly take off right away didn't stop Elly from trying to better them. She kept tweaking the design of the drawing board until she came up with something that sold well enough for her to retire. although Elly's contributions to design history are rarely mentioned. She helped shape the careers of some very important figures, most notably Walter Darwin, Teague, who apprenticed under her for a time before starting his own successful design firm. In fact, many of the glass designs that are attributed to Henry were actually finished by Teague after he left Elly's employ. He even admitted this in his autobiography, writing that Elly had a gift for engineering that was only surpassed by her ability to manage her husband's temperamental moods. The Metropolitan Museum of Art and the Smithsonian. Even though half of those pieces were actually just copies that Teague made after Elly retired, even though most people don't know her name, she was responsible for putting together some of the most important pieces of 20th century design. I don't know about you, but that kind of blows my mind. If you want to see what I'm working on right now, you can follow me on social media or sign up for my newsletter. If you want to support my work, you can join my membership program or just buy a t-shirt or something. The link to all that stuff is down below. Thanks for watching.